This conference will now be
You just took
recorded.
out all the good stuff.
Be on the phone, bro.
So people aren't going to hear my pitch.
People online now will, but the internet will.
Yeah. Great. Well, I'll take it from the top a little bit since for those of you that are just watching this, I'm going to let you know in full transparency. We missed the first 5 minutes of this recording.
And it's all Bob's fault.
And it's Bob Platt's fault. So let's be clear and concise, but just I'll try to summarize in another minute. I'm Julius DeMond, JD Spain Sr., candidate for Arlington County Board. Been in Arlington 15 years. I live in the Penrose community with my wife for 31 years. And we have 3 children, all who went to APS schools. I'm a proud Democrat. I'm the #1 choice from the Education Association. They have endorsed no other candidate. I'm the #1 choice of the Sierra Club. That's a testament of not only the confidence and values that they see in me, but also my commitment, not just in the past 3 months or 4 months of running a campaign, but what they've experienced in me working in this community over the past decade, right? So with that being said, I will not go back into the complete overview because we just came online again, but I really want to open this up for questions you may have. Um, Priorities. I think I've talked about that a little bit. Public health and public safety, environmental sustainability is critically important. Um, Innovative workforce building our economy. For the past decade, we've heard about commercial vacancy rate time and time again. And many candidates, many people that are on the board now have traveled through this very same place. And here we are, and we have not solved that equation. So what is it, right? I think we need innovative thinkers. We need people who are going to think and look across the horizon. I'm proud to be a member of George Mason University's President's Innovation Council and Inclusive Excellence Council, where one of the things we're looking at right now in this new age of work is how do we build out an innovative economy? And I can get into the nuances of that, but basically what we need to do is bring in different types of businesses. We have a certain number of buildings that can be outfitted for affordable housing units, but that's not many, right? We need butts in seats, right? So we need to bring in lab science, biotech, other industry partners into Arlington, I believe, right? All of these spaces cannot be childcare centers. Some of them can. They all can't be pickleball courts. Some of them can, right? I love pickleball. But look, folks, we have a problem, right? And it's a competitive time in many jurisdictions across America, first to the top. I work in corporate America. We just subletted 3 stories of our building a few years ago. Why? Because the bottom line in business, right, is if you can be more efficient with your people working home and do the same thing, then why pay for 3 stories? But we have to adapt. And Arlington needs to adapt and not get bogged down into single issues, right? We can talk about housing attainability, which I'm proud to discuss. And I'm also a proud supporter of EHO. I am not going to run away from that because I believe what makes Arlington what it is that we can diversify just like we are our housing portfolio, right? We need to build out different types of housing across Arlington. People will argue that it's here and the developers are getting rich off of it. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. I have a 29, a 30, and a 25-year-old. They all went to APS schools, but guess what? They can't come back home and buy a home. That's sad. And so, as a leader, I'm also looking through the eyes of my 3-year-old granddaughter and wondering if this Arlington could be the Arlington for her as well, and your grandchildren and your kids. So, there's a lot to discuss. Let's get to it. I'm here, Bob. Again, I may be the last one to come before the primary, but I know they say you save the best for last. So, I'm here. All right. Uh-oh, you want to be different. That's fine. Okay. I think Joe has his hand up on the line here for.
Okay.
So, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Joe.
Right. Well, certainly the missing middle issue is one of the things that concerns people. A number of people in my neighborhood have raised it. And in the Washington Post, I think you were the only one to strongly, if you will, approve or support. The issue is in the Washington Post, it was just a yes no answer. But the question is, do you see any way of structuring this arrangement so that it can, if you will be, achieve the purpose and not necessarily maximize developer riches, if so to speak. So
Yeah.
I do think that there's some subtle improvements in the program and how it's administered that could help alleviate some of the neighborhood's concerns.
Thank you, Joe. Did everyone hear what Joe? So, so Joe's question tied around. If you looked at the Washington Post, there was an answer in there. And for those of you who don't know, when the reporter calls us, it's either yes or no, right? And the question to me was, would you support, eight plexes basically, right? And so also Joe was talking about, how can we, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, is there room for that? Can we navigate? I mean, let me just say this. The reason I said yes is because as a leader, you never want to say no to the art of the possible, right? Why would I say no to something we have not, with strong intention, explored in this county, right? So I think when we went from 8 to 6, that was actually a compromise, right? Because the county started at 8. I also believe there's a lot of lessons learned. EHO, the issue itself is not over, and we put some good mechanisms in place to track build out of homes across Arlington. But again, to be clear on that question, it's not it's really not a yes no answer because there's many nuances associated with housing policy. So one thing I would want to do is, one, take any strong evaluation of our current policy, how that's being implemented, how that's working. But I'm not going to negate the fact that who knows, in 5 years or so, there may be a space where you can build an eightplex, right? So thus is why I answered in such a way. But I also think we need to go back out to the community and have continuing conversations about how EHO is affecting, or how they feel it's affecting their neighborhoods. We just don't pass the policy and don't go back to the folks and have a conversation. I think it's a continuum of conversations with our community, and we need to listen. All right. We were very divided. So can you please mute Carla one?
Okay.
See her?
Let's see, keep
Keep
muted.
muted. You got it. Yeah.
There.
So Joe, I just want to make sure I'm clear and I answer your question and not work around the edges. Did I answer your question there,
Right.
or
Well,
is there something else more pointed you want to get at? Go ahead.
well, I think the main thing to get out in your literature that you see opportunity there, but also the need for engagement and working with the community and developers so that the real purposes are achieved, and that if you will, it's more than a yes no answer, as you say,
Yeah.
and that's the issue I think you need to get out to the community of the things that can be done to evolve the policy and work off the experience in California and other places where this is implemented and what's gone right and wrong and so on. So,
Yeah. I think, to add a little bit more in the housing conversation is, make no mistake about it. Not just Arlington, but our entire region and a lot of places across America are in a housing crisis. But and that's because we see folks kind of flocking to the corridors where the work is, right? And what's troubling sometimes to me, and not only as a candidate but as a leader, is I have some of these conversations, and those of us, I'm a single family homeowner, right? In Penrose, bought our house 15 years ago, but I also hear folks say, "Hey, look." Um, Too bad, too sad. They should go buy a house somewhere else where it's cheap. Have them go to Loudon. Have them go to Maryland. I just don't think that's the Arlington way, right? And that's not innovative in thought. So yeah, I will definitely talk about opportunities down the road. Maybe enhance or tweak my literature a little bit, but engagement is critically important. as a leader, right? Because what we do know again is that there's a lot of folks who are just disappointed, and that's their issue, right? Well, what I try to tell them is that housing is connected to everything we do, right? Housing is connected to schools. Housing is connected to transportation. Housing is connected to workforce placement and where you're going to live. It's not, it can't just be single focus, right? And as a leader, that's what I bring to the table. And trust me, for those of you who do know me, I'm a social butterfly. So I love meeting with folks. And I think, once I'm on the board, what I want to do is go out and back in the communities, right? North, south, east, west, central apartment renters and speak with them about their thoughts on EHO and perhaps what we can do to enhance or maybe do something different down the road if need be.
As I was saying, the innovation this time is we do have a microphone.
Yeah.
And the point is that if you hear it loud and proud here in this room, maybe the folks at home can also hear.
Mhm.
So I'm going to use the microphone, and I encourage everybody else to ask me questions using that. And my question to you, sir, is Metro is a bit on the old side now. Build maintenance and upgrade. What is your commitment to the WMATA capital budget and operating budget?
Yeah. Has everyone online heard that question from Bob? Hope you did. So one thing for certain is that WMATA is being strained. Our metro system is not really being utilized in the ways that we thought it would be used. But guess what? It's not just an Arlington issue, right? It's a regional approach. So I think what we need to do and then again, WMATA and metro, all that's tied also to the environment when we want to get folks out of cars, right, and using, right, our buses that are electrified or getting to other means. I think what we also can do is work hard with our delegation, work with the General Assembly to get more funding into this region because Metro is critical to movement and to our success. But we have some problems, right? And WMATA has said as much, and this is not new to us. So as one of 5 members of the county board, I would hope that I can sit on, maybe the regional transportation board, or maybe the MCOG or something to that extent, and help shape the art of the possible. We need more funding. We need folks. We need to encourage folks to use Metro. That's how they get a lot of their money, right? But to your first part of your question, Bob, some of those it's old, right? They need some upgrades, and that's going to require again money, right? So do we increase taxes? No, I don't think so. I'm not going to increase taxes, but we need to ask the state for more funding to help in that regard, and for our regional partners to all, pay their fair share. Not Arlington just pay it all.
Anyone else want to ask a question? Maybe step up to the microphone, or I can pass the microphone over.
I'm expecting to get at least 10 questions out of this group today. Anything less would be uncivilized. Gail has a question for me.
So I really would like to know, I was impressed when Eric told me that you were this candidate who were about your what more about your environmental policy, and it's just what you're saying to say what you think about is over electrification of transportation, because what it takes to build an electric car is destroying the planet and even in our own country. Lithium and cobalt are society destroyed. Babies 3 years old are looking at cobalt plants in the Republic of the Congo. So that is not just environmental solution. What can be done to allow people or to make Arlington more walkable, even though it's still but not really? What can be done to improve the bike path? What can be done to encourage people to move around locally within their neighborhood? Those are the questions that, because for me, I'm 74 years old. I'm worried about my grandchildren. And I want them to have a planet that's livable. And electrification is absolutely not the solution.
Yeah. Thank you, Gail. I would tend to agree to this to the extent that I am innately aware of where the ingredients, the cobalt and those, where that comes from and how it's acquired. Yeah. And right. So, but I think what we have to do, right, electrification can't be, and is not, the sole part of how we're going to improve in environmental sustainability. I also serve as the chair of the Environmental Climate Justice Committee for the NAACP. I didn't think I was going to get another title, but president, the president, whole other people, folks say, you finished with president, but we can use you in the committee. So I try my best in that regard. But I've worked in this space for a number of years. What we need to do when it comes to walkability, right? I agree. There's neighborhoods in Arlington, Gail, that uh, are difficult still to navigate by way of on bikes, right? They're not as walkable as we would like them to be. We have some great paths, we have some great trails, but we're constantly looking at ways to improve. So one thing I want to do is work with Parks and Recs, make sure DES and the whole use the full arm of our county services to ensure that we're doing what we can to make Arlington safe when it comes to pedestrian safety, especially around our metro corridors in Crystal City and Pentagon and Boston, where I've been and I've seen, like, people almost get hit, right? I lived in Europe for 7 years and I lived 4 years in Brussels. You know who has the right of way in Brussels? People. Right? So I think I'll go into this with a mindset of, look, it's not just about putting, electrifying everything, but how do we complement all areas of our community with the walkability, which is tied to homes again, right? How do we improve our transient services? I've heard talks about, the limited times that ART and Metro run in certain corridors. Can we extend those hours? That's another thing about working with WMATA and all these folks in Metro. Can we? Because people are being left behind. So Arlington is a great place, but there are areas we need to improve in. And I think when it comes to bike safety, pedestrian safety, walkability, you have my support on making sure we extend the full arm of our county to make sure it's better. So we've put funding in certain places, Gail. Within program, we can do public service announcements to encourage folks, but how we communicate, not just to our seniors in the community, but how we communicate to the next generation of Arlingtonians, the young ones. There's another question.
Social media campaign right now. They need to do really better on social media and educate people about staying out of the bike lanes. I was driving here and on Wilson Boulevard, turning on Victoria Mason. People will try, the two people in front of me in the bike lane. There's a dedicated bike lane and it's so, I think social media is a great way to
Yeah,
educate.
thank you for that, Karen. I've also been watching and monitoring the Vision Zero plan. So Arlington's done, I mean, any injury is bad, but we've relatively safe in that regard. We have had no fatalities. But one thing I learned in the Marine Corps is that you plan for war in the time of peace, right? So again, you have my commitment, not only with, utilizing the full extension of the county when we talk about the community engagement team that we have. Uh, I do some level of marketing and engagement where I work in corporate space. I think I know how to market well, but I can also provide some oversight and recommendation and speak with our subject matter experts on, there's a wrong way to do the right thing. Are we on the right type of platforms in our community to get to our youth and get to our citizenry? I mean, it's more to it than just sending a postcard to everyone and dropping it in their mailbox. There's more to it than just sending an email, because you can't lead by email. It means, as a county board member and also as a Democrat, I need to get up from the dais, get out from 2100, come to the senior Dems meeting, even when I'm in office, and have this conversation, not even by request of Bob Platt, but I need to come here and meet you where you are. I need to go to our retirement homes. I need to go to the schools and listen to folks. That's how you become a better and well-informed leader. And I will do just that, Gail and Karen, and my as a county board member. And someone just came on mute again. I think there may be a question.
Are you asking a question?
No,
Are you,
no,
yes, are you asking a question?
no,
Caller,
just,
are you asking a question?
no, I'm not. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
Another
came back.
question from the audience. Yes, go ahead, Karen, Kathleen.
Kathleen.
Since I'm a retired babysitter teacher, and I care very much about the teachers when it comes to, do I have to put this on?
You can't hear me. That's good. It's all here. It's good.
People say we can have classes, but now we can't have full. So you really don't want the teachers to live in the community that they serve, okay? You can't pay them double what they're getting, all right? We accept that. But maybe there's a way to get them to live where you work programs to actually, yes, subsidize the public employees so they can live. What I one cause that I really care so much about is the family. We went through the COVID, okay? Well, the kids were going to school. Who was hurt the most? The poorest folks, the folks who didn't have the connectivity. They didn't have computers. And that's I'm gonna say our regular poor people, but no. It's also so many of the immigrants. And they can't afford all of that. Well, how come the richest county in Virginia not make it reasonable? Well, no, JD, take it.
Oh, a lot there, Catherine, and I thank you. First to the teachers, and as I stated at the opening of my today, I am proud to be the only candidate of the 5 candidates endorsed by the Education Association. You know, all the candidates had an opportunity to go into that special closed room and talk about a myriad of issues. I'm not sure what everyone else talked about, but I think that also you must have a body of work. And what I've done over the years, being a parent and also knowing of kids who went to APS and also knowing a lot of teachers and principals, is I've advocated hard on their behalf at the APS level and also at the county level. We're losing too many teachers because of a number of issues. One is housing, right? Also, another is teachers are being asked to take on additional responsibilities like therapists almost, right? And that's rather unfortunate. But to the pointed question about housing, I believe we should bend over backwards to help aid and assist our teachers. So whether that's by enhancing our grant program, if that also means we have a home ownership study going on right now, incentivizing ways, helping with closing costs if someone wants to buy a home, especially our teachers. But what makes Arlington special and why my wife and I chose Arlington in lieu of Burke in 2009 was the fact that we have phenomenal schools. When you have phenomenal schools and good teachers, that also helps with your community values and your home values and your land values. All right. We cannot afford not to invest in people and invest in our teachers because the long-term effect of not doing so is the degradation of our schools. And so you have my commitment, as I've told also the 2 new candidates or nominees from the school board, is that we need to work collaboratively between the school board and county board on like-minded causes to help our students, to help our teachers get, homes and different programs, but also our police, our firefighters. I spoke to a group of firefighters a few months ago, and it was 4 of them all together. And I asked them, how many of you live in Arlington? How many of you think live in Arlington? 0. Are we building a community? Are we building, what are we doing here? And I think it's a values proposition. We have to invest in those folks and pay them not just a living wage, but a wage that's comparable to any other place they may want to go to, because we're losing police officers and teachers to $10,000 margins. Hey, I can go teach over here. I can do this for another 10, and they leave. We want them to stay in Arlington. So with the digital divide, I saw it. God bless my wife and I. We were lucky that our children were already out of school. But my youngest daughter was in Parsons School of Design up in New York during COVID. And guess what? The digital divide, that COVID piece even affected her as a college student, in so much that she had to come back to Virginia and finish up at VCU School of Arts. So think about when we don't invest and make sure we have connectivity to every student, to every household. Honestly, what we're doing is we're leaving people behind. All Fiber has put forward some recommendations over the years. I've been monitoring that as well. And my goal was to make sure we don't have a household or a citizen that's not connected to the internet. Why? Because in corporate America, where I work at, y'all, if you haven't seen it yet, digital transformation is the wave of the future. That's what we are. It's not just our phones here. People aren't even carrying around cash anymore, right? Everything we do is through a network, and you have to be connected. I don't want to take out the personal side of it, but this is the hardcore reality. So I will do everything in my power to look at our budget, to work on public-private partnerships, to ensure, especially in our affordable housing units and folks that are new to the area, that they are connected here in Arlington. Okay? Anything less would be almost uncivilized. Really, in 2024 in Arlington, which is a prized gem county in America. Yes,
Steve, do you want to walk to the microphone?
Steve. Yes, good to see you, Steve. I'm hanging in there, brother. We have 5 weeks till the election. Not like I'm counting.
Current policy, just wanted to see if and bring up this issue. I think it's very important. The PFAS, organic molecules, PFAS, PFAS, getting that out of drinking water. Are you familiar with where they are now, and what more could be done, because it's pretty toxic issue.
Yeah, thank you. You're a chemist? Yeah. I'm just a country boy from South Carolina that barely got my poli-sci degree.
I'm a chemist too.
Oh my goodness. Look, very serious issue. To the extent how it's affecting Arlington, I'm not well read on how it's affecting the water here, but I've talked about, microplastics in bottles. I know our EPA actually came out with some information a few weeks ago talking about how they are looking again at the microplastics that are in water bottles that is affecting people, can cause cancer. I think when we work with our Department of with DES and our and those folks, we need to be constantly monitoring the water throughout Arlington. When we built out Virginia Hospital Center a few years ago, there was a number of folks in the community that they went to up in the Woodlawn area who turned on their speaker one day and brown water came out. It was in their bathtubs. So look, that's one area. I'm also concerned about what's going on in Columbia Pike with all that construction and what's the runoff effect, if any, with our water. So the questions I'll be asking with our Department of with DES is, how are we monitoring our water? Is it at standard? What more can we do to ensure people are drinking safe water? Because You know, some folks in some places of the world it's a scarcity, but we can't, take discount the fact that even in Arlington, people could be drinking bad water. So I will look into that and make sure that we're doing right by it and that no one's consuming dirty water that has all these chemicals in it. You know, we have some measures that we have to do as a county to ensure, but I'm not sure how often it's being done, if it's yearly, but especially with new construction and new sites, the runoff and the second and third order effects behind old pipes and what happens to our water, I'm concerned about that.
JD, just to point you in the right direction,
Yeah.
I think Arlington is one of the few communities in America that has its water supplied by the Army Corps of Engineers.
I didn't know that.
Part of the DC system. And so I think any county board member that takes a role with the Council of Government and so on would probably have to look into the water aspect of our regional. Thank you.
Yeah.
Somebody else with a good question. Paul is going to go to the microphone.
Paula always has good questions.
The big building, multi-unit buildings, there is, as I understand it, an option for public art versus street. And would you be willing to commit to eliminating that because public art seems to constitute an awful green plastic looking swirl inside the building. If they're going down Wilson from Courthouse on the right hand side pretty early on. There's this, I mean, there's that. There's in the Boston area where I live, there are these sculptures.
Yeah.
None of them are,
Yeah.
none of them. But trees would be so much better. We need our tree canopy. And is there a way to insist on planting native rather than Bradford pears, which are invasive and very aggressive and weak and not very street. So how do we get native plants and put plants in and not they can have art too, but not
Well, Paula, you have given me, that's a great question. A lot to think about there. But back to something I said earlier. I believe last night I was at a forum with Embracing Arts. Okay. So, and I do too. I just said my daughter went to Parsons School of Design. And so, look, but I also am a big advocate for our tree canopy program. I'm happy to be a member of the NAACP where we worked with the Lutheran Church last year under the leadership of Mike Heminger to get a $60,000 grant and working with Eco Action. And we got some new trees, to help our tree canopy program. I, as a homeowner, just had 3 more trees planted in my yard last year. Yeah, I think they're natives. I think are oaks kind of like natives, right? Yeah. But I get your point. I think we have to be able to do both, right? I think art presents a great opportunity, even in development, for some of the community incentive packet programs, to enhance and build upon the vibrancy of our community. But I also get the point to where we need to make sure we plant native trees as well, right? We can do both. I will, do my due diligence to look hard in that area, but I want to make sure when I'm doing stakeholder analysis, right, that I have not only the advocates from the art community, which I am a big supporter of, but also the advocates from, Eco Action, the Sierra Club, and others, where I'm also a big advocate, right? So I think we can do a little bit of both. And what best trees, native plants that we can put into a plan or get planted, we should do so. I also think in new development, there are some restrictions when it comes to what we can demand because we're a Dillon rule state, but we don't want to make that an excuse for everything. That's why I'm proud to have the support of many folks in our delegation because it's going to require perhaps some policy changes down in Richmond because we have a number of restrictions and what we can enforce and tell developers we want all the time. So it's a work in progress. Not trying to kick the can down the road or pass the buck, but I'm not. I don't want to give up. I'm not giving up on trees and native plants, but I can't give up on art, right? So I think placement is important, location is important, but also community involvement is important, right? So if we're gonna, in the eyes, look, I would say, even in this room today, right? We all are artists. We all are creative in our own way, right? But that's a reach. Artists will tell you that we always have we all have somewhat of a creative mind. So art is almost in the eyes of the beholder. And I think we have to be very mindful that in a county of 236,000 people, right? We can do a little bit of everything, right? But I appreciate what you're coming with, where you're coming with plants. I just put out a video yesterday. If you get a chance to look at it on my social media page, talking about some of my environmental policy. I was actually took this video. I was in Lover Run, walking in the stream. It's pretty neat. So go check it out. Uh, yeah, we can do a little bit of both. And so you have my commitment, all right? And I totally understand and appreciate where you're coming from. So thank you for that question.
How big is this squirrel? Well, life size or 6 foot tall?
But
Yeah.
6 foot squirrel, 6 foot squirrel.
draft him for the WNL football team.
Yeah. Well, Gil, and that's what I was saying. It could be, yeah. Okay, here we go. Oh, we got-
Or superior, that they do not have public dialogue. They know what's right, they want to proceed with that way. I think the board needs to have, who would the staff? Be better represent.
Yeah, that is a question. For those online, it talked about county staff and the relationship basically with the citizenry that pays them, and being responsive. I have heard countless concerns about um, county staff and some great things, but also some not so great things. I believe the duty of the legislative body is not only to work harmoniously with the county manager, but also challenge county staff to be better, right? Um, I am, the effective communication is the key to success. You should not have to send an email to the county and wait 4 weeks to get a response, right? In this digital transformation age, you should be able to put in an email, put in a request, and be able to track it at every stage, not just an email, but a task. So there's work to be done there. Um, I don't want to get out in front of being on the board, but I will tell you, once I'm there, I want to sit down with the county manager, the deputies. I'm sure they brief all new members of the county board. And I want to let them know that folks in the community aren't happy. And it's from many neighborhoods. And we need to do better in how we respond. We work for the people. And I take this role, the position of the county board, is that's your seat. I just occupy it for a little bit. You give me the honor and the privilege to do so. So I'm going to work on your behalf to ensure we have a responsive government. And if we aren't being responsive, reach out to me, contact me, and we'll figure out what's going on. I think I really need to look at how we communicate, uh, and I think there are some areas where we can improve. So I feel your frustration. You're not the only. A lot of folks have talked about it. I think the county has made some attempts, but we're not where we need to be.
Gail has a follow-up question.
Yes, Gail.
We can call people.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty tech savvy, old person, but it is extremely annoying when I call any department in the county and all I ever get is a voicemail.
Yeah.
And then they don't get that. So, I'm old enough, and I'm sure most people get old enough. Remember when people picked up the phone and answered your questions, and people were trained to answer your questions. So I'm sorry, a better email system is not that. The answer is the ability to read. If you choose to call, you should get an answer. Somebody can answer the phone. And if you choose to email, you should get an answer right back. But Arlington's got terrible with this. It's not being able to get anybody on the phone. And then sometimes when you do, you get somebody who has no idea what whatever. So, but first of all, somebody should pick up.
So if it felt, I'm sorry, if it came across as that email is the only sole way to communicate with the county board, we can do better. But what I'm talking about, what I want us to get at, and this is what I'm talking about being innovative. Back to spaces I work. There, from a text message to a call to a voicemail, we need to be able to make data-driven decisions. So when I call or you send an email, someone needs to be tracking that, right? Someone internally, internal comms, internal communication. I don't know if we have any data scientists or statisticians or whatever in the county, but that needs to be tracked. And once we get some data, we can make well-informed decisions on what we're doing right. Well, guess what? We had 500 phone calls that came back with this month, and all were answered, 5 days later. As a leader, if I see that data point, then I know where the problem is, and I need to go address that problem because in a broad scope of things, it's going on all over government, all over our county government. So if you send your email, if you talk to someone, and guess what? You don't like what you heard on that phone call. It's similar when we call our bank and you say, hey, you get this prompt on the backside. Were you satisfied? I don't think we have prompts. You should be able to hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did not like the service. I'm on the inside as a leader. I'm looking at data, and it's helping me make a better informed decision on how we move forward. It won't all get fixed in 30 days, but this is where I'm thinking. These are the type of questions and how I want to challenge staff, because I don't think we have it. I'll be quite honest with you. We don't have a mechanism like that to say, hey, guess what? We've had all these citizens call in and they're disappointed in our service. It's just off word of mouth, right?
Right. And so that's why you might want to consider a customer satisfaction survey. The
Right.
problem that you have is that the interactions between the citizens and the county are not just with the departments that report to the county manager. You have an independent commissioner revenue office that has a lot of customer facing. You have a treasurer that's a lot of customer facing.
Mhm.
You even have a sheriff that has a lot of customer facing.
Yeah.
And there needs to be an overall mechanism
Holistic.
so that you can diagnose whether it's a communication wrong with the sheriff's office versus the commissioner of revenue versus someone that reports to the county manager.
I think, this is where relationships matter, and understanding that the sheriff and the commissioner of revenue and the treasurer all are constitutional officers. And there come times when, they'll tell folks, well, you're not going to be working in my bailiwick, even though we give them some of the funding. I think I can have this conversation. We as the board can have a conversation with the aforementioned leaders and say, hey, look, let's implement this system for our county, whether you're in the sheriff's department, whether you're at the commissioner of revenue, whether you're at the treasurer's office, and we're all looking at some of the same data based by the department. Again, this is 2024, y'all. I know we can do it because it's done across America. Why aren't we doing it? It's the art of the possible. We just need to get there, and we need the leaders to push our government and work with our stakeholders like those constitutional officers and make it happen. Because to your point, Bob, it shouldn't just be the county government. It should be all entities here in Arlington that serves people here in Arlington. I support that. I will push for that. It may cost a little money, but it's nothing to get a program to that nature. Maybe a couple $100,000. I'm not sure, but it's not a heavy lift.
Well, I just did get phones like
Okay.
this. And apparently the implementation was very rough, and the way they set it up,
somebody made the decision to program it a certain way without consulting with a lot of other people, typical, right? And so calls to one place were getting coded and ending up in the treasurer's office that were supposed to be commissioner, and it was just complete chaos. And
I can see
what
that.
I don't know if they've straightened it out.
So once, that's great to point out, and once they have looked at have analyzed some of that data, then the question becomes, how do they follow up and how do they fix it, right? And who's going to provide oversight? I'll tell you what I see happening a lot of times in Arlington. We got bogged down in housing last year, right? But there's a myriad of issues, as I mentioned earlier, that are going on in our community that needs to be addressed, right? How are folks going to age in place? What does the programming look like for our youth? We got all kind of people raising their hands in. So
It's for iced tea.
it's for iced tea, yes. I'm just drinking some bottled sparkling water here, but I totally appreciate that, Karen, and trust me.
Yeah, like
I-
who's conducting oversight?
well,
There was some decisions made that didn't sound very.
Well, in the spirit of in helping our community, and I think all constitutional officers and staff come with good intentions. This is where leadership, improving leadership, is critically important. I didn't never think I'll be the president of a nonprofit NAACP. I love the NAACP, but I got there in 2018, and there was about 200 people on the rolls. Some folks had been there for a long time, like I had, but not in position of leadership like James Younger. Thank you for being here, sir, and Wanda. But we took that organization in a matter of 3 or 4 years, and we grew it to well over 1,000 at one point in time. And we brought in, when we started around $2,000 that was in the kitty, we ended up in 2018 having well over $300,000 in it. We brought people together. What you need on a county board is a leader that's going to bring folks together, all the constitutional officers, right? And we got to find ways to compromise for the good of the community, right? JD Spain is not going to have all the answers, but you're also not going to pull a game on JD, because I've been in the community and I think I know what people want, but I'm willing to compromise for the good of the people, right? That's what it's all about. And unless you have that type of leadership, I would argue that it's going to be business as usual in Arlington. I've known folks who've been here 30 some years. You know what they tell me? They say, JD, Arlington's not going to change. They have the Arlington way patted down, and it's a lot of, and I ask, what is the Arlington way? Where's that defined at? I like that. Arlington way is in the eyes of whoever thinks is their way. But look, that doesn't mean we can't work together in peace and in harmony and do good things on behalf of this community and ultimately for our party.
Okay,
All right.
why don't we have one
One
more
more question.
question from the audience? One more question from the audience?
They got Joe. Joe has one more.
Okay, Joe, you're on.
Okay, well, quickly, actually, it's sort of quick advice of that. Mary Hines, when she was on the county board, worked very hard in this effort, and I think it would be very good for you to talk to Mary Hines about community interaction, input, and so on. The other thing is that with regard to the constitutional officers, I chaired the IT commission, and we worked with the Department of Technology, and a whole lot was done to make the interface with the public much, much better and faster and complete with upgrading the software for the constitutional officers. And I think the same kinds of innovation in terms of interaction with the community could be done again with coordination with the Department of Technology about better ways for interface with the public in terms of input and complaints and so on. So I can help you interface with people in the Department of Technology if that would be of interest. But anyway,
Joe,
get elected first.
yeah, get elected first. Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, I'll get it if I just need your support, and we'll make things happen. Joe, some really good points there. I do know Mary Hines and thank her for her many years of service And I know she was, very involved in our community and community affairs and community interaction. Um, I get it. I spoke to some folks. I actually know a few of the folks that are on the, with the Department of IT. Actually, one of them was my classmate in Leadership Arlington in 2022. She's been there for a while. So I think it's a continuum, right? We need to always look over the horizon and see how we can be innovative. And I appreciate you pointing out some of the work you've done in upgrading of the software. So uh, it's a work in progress, and once I get elected, we can endeavor to improve ourselves. Okay.
JD, would you like to just take 2 minutes to summarize, remind us where your website is, and maybe make up for the fact that I cheated you on recording your opening remarks, which were very articulate.
You didn't cheat me. No one cheats here. Again, I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their Tuesday lunch hour to spend times here with the Arlington Senior Gems. It is amazing and it's warm to be among friends. But I also want to take a point of privilege to introduce you to someone who's new to my team, Nicholas, Stan Nicholas. Nicholas is with us. Nicholas is our college graduate intern from The Ohio State University. He chose my campaign to work on out of many campaigns, and so I'm very grateful. And this is his second event. He came on yesterday. Thank you, Nicholas, for being here. And to my campaign manager, Julie Stranley in the back, thank you for all that you do. Well, let me finish up here because I'm being recorded. People hearing all this. Look, you have an opportunity. I said it earlier. Democracy is on the ballot, but I also think characters on the ballot. I also think trust is on the ballot. The people you trust, i.e., uh, Mary, Margaret, you probably remember the former senator, she's endorsed me as her number one choice. Senator Barbara Favola has endorsed me as her number one choice. Vice Chair Takis Karen Tonis has endorsed me as the number one choice. And many others in our community. The list goes on. But what I'm saying to you is think hard and think long about who you want on the county board, not just to represent you on a single issue, but the whole of community, the whole of government. And what I bring to the table is more than 30 years of experience. This is just a continuum of my time of serving our country in the Marine Corps. This is also a continuum of my time serving in the nonprofit sector. I love Arlington. I love being a Democrat. And if you're elected to be on the county board, I will serve you, not special interests, not developers. Many of you know that I don't mind asking the hard questions. And I would challenge us as a staff and as a community to think hard and to think long and to work hard. Okay. So with that being said, early voting is already underway. The election is on June 18th, the Democratic primary election. I'm asking for your number one vote, your first choice. I'm not going to tell you what to do for number 2 and 3, but if you want to put me 2, I'll take that. Look, I'm asking for your support, all right? Because Arlington is at a critical moment. And I think, lastly, in a community that is very diverse, right, in nature, we need to think about who we want on the county board and who has the skill set, who has the professional acumen, who has the relationships, and who's also been working hard in this party intentionally for the past decade at least. And that's been me. So God bless you. Thank you for coming out. Let's go win this on June 18th. Thank you, Bob, for hosting. You're welcome. And that's all I have.
So we'll see you on the second Tuesday in June. Thank you.